Picture this. A Boeing 727 accelerates down a runway on a bright summer morning. The weather is perfect. The runway is nearly 2 miles long. The nose lifts, and the rest of the plane refuses to follow it. The airframe shudders, the tail scrapes the ground, throwing sparks, and the engines start backfiring like gunshots. From the moment the nose comes up, everyone on board has 22 seconds. So stow your tray tables, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for some extreme turbulence, because this is Final Boarding Call. Ew, no, hated that. Hello, and welcome to Final Boarding Call. I'm your disaster-obsessed host, Alice.
And it's me, Mickey.
Oh my God, Zach is about to get sent to the garage. He's out of control. Probably because for the first time ever, we recorded this episode last night, and I never hit record.
Yeah, so we're just doing it again for fun. All of this is straight off the top, guys. Certainly not rehearsed.
Oh my God, you guys. I was so mad. We did make it a year and a half without ever having that happen, but I was really grumpy last night.
And now that it's happened, she's like, I'm going to have to double check every time. And in my head, I'm like, you could have double checked every time before and it would have never happened.
I usually do. Before we dive in, quick reminder, please rate, review, and subscribe. If you send us a picture of your review, we will go ahead and ship you some stickers. So finalboardingcallpodcast@gmail.com is our email. Send us a picture and your address, because we don't know where you live. And then we will send you some stickers. Today's episode is a request. So big thank you to KH for recommending this one. You guys keep the suggestions coming. Some of my favorite episodes, including this one, have come from recommendations and suggestions. Sources. We have the official NTSB report. There's a Mayday on this one.
There's always a Mayday.
Mayday, which is Canadian. Little known fact, in case you didn't know, even though the narrator is British and oftentimes all of the actors are British, it is actually a Canadian show. I learned that from a very friendly listener who emailed me. Dot Aviation did a YouTube video on this, and then I found some archival TV news footage for this one, which was really fun to go through. If you hear any wind in the background, I do apologize, but it is 100 degrees in Colorado right now, so we are bumping our AC.
We actually haven't turned off the AC in 5 days, 6 days. I don't know.
Really rough out here.
It's hot. I don't do well in heat.
But we're going to talk about another hot place in the summer. It's August 31st, 1988 at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, which is the airport that I fly in and out of at least twice a month. I'm there a lot. If you need food recommendations, let me know. Clear skies, calm winds. It is the kind of morning that pilots call severe clear.
Severe clear?
I know. Kind of sounds like an acne medication.
Oh, God, yeah, it does.
Doesn't it? Okay. Delta Airlines Flight 1141 is a Boeing 727 bound for Salt Lake City, about 2.5 hours northwest. Aboard are 101 passengers and 7 crew. So we've got 108 people in total, if math is not your thing. So in this group of people, we have a veterinarian named Troy Prater, who is headed to Montana to go fishing.
Love that. Beautiful fishing up that way.
Zach's only saying that because last night in the episode that we didn't record, I was telling him about how beautiful fishing in Montana is. The plane is 14 years old, and it's in good shape with one trivial exception. There's a single fuel gauge that isn't reading.
Oh, well,
so
we've all been there.
Yeah, I mean, truly, you gotta, flick the dash a little bit, and then the needle, I've got fuel. But the aircraft is carrying one more fault that nobody knows about, and it's one that won't show itself until the worst possible second. And when you hear it, shout it out, because it'll be really funny if you're like in a grocery store and you just randomly scream, I know what it is. Up front, we've got 3 crew members. Captain Larry Davis, who is 48 years old. He was hired by Delta in 1965, and he has almost 17,000 hours in the air.
So many hours.
This man is a veteran, and on top of that, or part of that, I guess, is that more than 7,000 of the 17,000 is in the 727.
Man's familiar.
Yep. This is his airplane. Not literally, but that means that he will be the pilot flying. And beside him is First Officer Wilson Kirkland, who is 37, and he has 9 years at Delta. And then facing sideways behind both of them is a flight engineer, because it's the 80s. And our flight engineer is Stephen Judd. He's 30, he's a former Navy aviator, and he's the newest member of this team.
He's a naviator?
He's a naviator. Wow. If that isn't a Blippi song waiting to happen. I'm an aviator. You're welcome, folks, for that one.
Yes.
Can you tell we have a toddler?
Here to ruin lives.
Oh, man. That one's for Logan. I feel like Logan will get a kick out of that one.
You think his kids watch Blippi?
Logan, let us know. Just text. You can just text us.
They might, I guess.
You don't need to email the pod. Or you could. On the 727, the flight engineer works a wall of switches that run the aircraft's systems. So this includes everything from fuel, which our fuel gauge doesn't work, so he's sitting there just flicking it constantly, electrics, and air conditioning. So we got 2 pilots, we got our flight engineer. He's the one that's watching every gauge. We've got 3 sets of eyes in this cockpit. So in theory, nothing should get missed.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. So, Delta in 1988. It ain't what we think of Delta now. I will tell you that Zach and I have never flown Delta because it is out of my price range for purchasing flights.
But back in this day, they were for the poors.
They had some shit going on. Delta now is consistently ranked one of the best U.S. airlines, and it's too fancy for me. I'm a Southwest lady myself. Sometimes American Airlines, because I fly in and out of DFW so much. Mm-hmm. But in 1988, it had been growing fast, and it had recently merged with Western Airlines. These are 2 entities, and they've been folding in new planes, new crews, new procedures. And shortly before this flight, the FAA had actually audited Delta after a run of incidents involving crew mistakes. The inspectors flagged breakdowns in cockpit communication and a lack of standardized discipline. So folks, what that means is that at Delta, the captains ran their cockpits however they liked.
How they saw fit.
That's true. Yes.
And if it fits,
it sits. Oh boy. Just before 8, Flight 1141 pushes back. So the engines start, and from this moment, the crew is under the sterile cockpit rule. So there were a string of accidents in the 1970s, and specifically one that we have covered on this podcast that tragically killed Stephen Colbert's father and some of his brothers. And after that accident, authorities made it a law that from engine start until the plane climbs through 10,000 feet, there is no conversation that isn't about flying the airplane. And the idea is simple. The busiest, most dangerous phases of flight should be free of distractions so that you get your checklists done. You gotta check your checklists.
Or in layman's terms, just less distracty, more gooder.
More less distracty, more facty. No,
Nope.
he hates it.
Mm-mm.
He hates it. Well, as they push back, Captain Davis mentions that he hasn't gotten his paycheck. And he asks the others about theirs.
Have you ever been at a job where you didn't get your paychecks when you were supposed to, though?
It sucks. I have. I worked at Jamba Juice for like 4 years. So, yes.
I would think a corporate place like that would have their stuff together, but maybe not.
And Delta isn't a giant corporation.
Yeah, but this was the 80s. They didn't.
Okay. You know what? Shit happens. But what's interesting to note is that the other two had received their paycheck. So now Captain Davis is like, oh boy, that's not great.
They just don't like me. They must be getting ready to fire me.
It also immediately breaks the sterile cockpit rule. So the chatter about pay carries on through engine start. And then it's good for us to know that DFW has been slammed since 1988 because it is absolutely hopping at that airport today. The controllers at DFW work more than 670,000 takeoffs and landings a year.
That's a lot of planes.
Yes. And our flight, 1141, settles into a long crawling line for the runway. The ants go marching one by one.
Hurrah.
Hurrah. And the crew figures it'll be about half an hour before they are first for takeoff. So to save fuel, Davis shuts down the number 3 engine, which is the right one.
That sounds less than ideal.
It is standard practice at Delta. The thought being, if you're just going to be like chilling in a line and basically moving like 20 feet at a time, you don't need every single engine on the airplane on. So obviously this is critical because they need to restart that engine when they get to the front of the line or they will be unable to take off successfully. So they're inching along and a flight attendant steps into the cockpit. She is a 30-year veteran. She is curious about the delay, and she ends up staying in the cockpit. So boom, now we are at number 2, break of the sterile cockpit rule.
Yeah, there's a whole other person that's not supposed to be here.
Like, girl, love what you're doing. Kudos on being there for 30 years. Please exit the cockpit at this time. The conversation drifts. They're talking about food. They are talking about drink. They are talking about the upcoming election, which, spoiler alert, Bush will win. And all 3 pilots are now joined in this conversation. And because they're barely moving, Davis decides that this doesn't really count as a critical phase of flight.
He just decided it doesn't count.
It doesn't count. He's
All I did was kiss her. It doesn't count.
We were on a break. Name the reference. And here's a detail from the cockpit voice recorder that is alarming. First Officer Kirkland jokes that they should talk about the flight attendants' dating habits, and this is a quote, "That way, we have it on the recorder in case we crash. We gotta leave something for our wife and children to listen to," end quote. That is on the tape, and it did not age well.
Not very. Yeah, no.
It aged badly.
All it takes is 20 minutes for that to age poorly.
God, you guys. But that's the thing. You never think that anybody's going to have to listen to it.
Oh, I don't think that I'm as dumb as you thought that. I think that I thought I was once. That's another movie reference.
Okay. Email us. I don't know what the hell Zach just did. So please email us and educate me on whatever that was. About 10 minutes pass with the flight attendant still chilling in the cockpit. And small things start slipping. So Davis, who is our pilot, realizes that they forgot to switch to the next ground controller. And when he points it out, Kirkland apologizes, admitting that he'd been caught up talking to the flight attendant. So what we need to know that comes out when this investigation ends up taking place is that There's a very easygoing command style here. It's sort of captain's discretion. And it is exactly what the FAA had flagged in its audit. And it is taking place textbook in this flight.
Everything that you guys are doing, we said, stop doing that.
Yeah, because something's about to happen, folks, where we're all going to go like, oh, shit. So just before 9, the flight is 4th in the lineup. The engineer makes the cabin announcement, restarts the number 3 engine, so that's good.
Okay, I was assuming that was going to get forgotten.
Did it. Check. And picks the taxi checklist back up. Folks, we have been sitting in a line.
Doing nothing
For like 20-something minutes. And we have not finished the checklist. So in their heads, they are still assuming that there's 5 to 10 minutes left for taxiing. And I guess in theory, that should be plenty of time to finish both the taxi checklist and the before takeoff checklist. Except they get a call from the tower. And the tower controller has spotted a gap. And he wants our plane to take it.
Go ahead and hang a Louie here and we'll get you on your way.
Love it. Could you do it with a Texan accent?
No.
Okay, well, I figured I'd ask. So now there's an opportunity for them to jump straight to the front of the line. However, both remaining checklists now have to be done in the seconds that it is taking for Davis to like roll this bad pony onto their new runway.
Why is the pony bad?
Was she a bad girl? So this would be a moment where you would want to, you should be embarrassed doing this, but you should key back to the controller and say, hey, this is going to sound stupid, but we haven't actually finished our checklist yet. We're going to need 5 minutes before we are ready to go.
Because we done messed up AA, Ron.
They did mess up AA, Ron.
Done.
But instead, Zach, they take the clearance and they go. So now, under pressure, the engineer races the last items with the first officer. And I'm going to zip this off for you. Shoulder harness, they're on. Flaps 15, green light. Flight controls, tops and bottoms checked. Nav instruments, they're set. Now, there is something in that list that they said was done, and it was not done. Take your guess now, folks, because I'm going to give you the answer here in just a moment. Then, the before takeoff checklist is done just as fast. And we hear it in the cockpit. Takeoff briefing is complete. Except the briefing hadn't happened. And flaps 15, green light. The single most important line on that list was not checked. That was just a memory. You just hear that and you automatically go, yes, it's done. Nobody actually looked to see. Looked. I'm doing a little hand motion that you guys can't see. But
and I love to make fun of it. Just,
All right. Well, before we go further, we're going to talk about the flaps and the slats and the birds and the bees. Not the second one. Just flaps and slats. Because it seems impossible that one lever has the potential to bring down an entire airplane. But here's what's critical, folks. An engine doesn't lift a plane. All that it does is push the plane forward faster and faster. It is the wings that do the flying. So the faster the air moves over the wings, the more lift that it makes. And that upward force is what gets you off of the ground. So here is a little interesting fact to know. A jet, like the 727, spends almost all of its life cruising high and fast. Think about it, right? So takeoff and landing, those are like minutes in the grand scheme of a flight. You spend most of it at your cruising altitude. So the wings are built thin and they are built flat, which is perfect for slicing through air for hours. But that same thin wing is lousy at low speed, which is exactly the speed that you've got when you're taking off. So the fix, how do we make the wing work for takeoff, but also efficient for cruising?
Make it expandable and contract.
Flaps and slats, Zach. That's exactly right.
Make it do the bigger and then back to the smaller.
Exactly. So flaps and slats come out from the front and the back, and it makes the wing larger and more curved for slow speed moments. With them out, the plane can fly at a much lower speed. With them tucked away, the wing needs a lot more speed than a runway can give you before it'll lift. And on flight 1141, the flaps and slats are still tucked neatly inside their little bed in the wing. And there is one last thing standing between the crew and disaster. So here is what we talked about in the intro. The 727 has a takeoff warning system. It is a safety net for exactly this mistake. Push the throttles to take off power while the plane is set up wrong, like the flaps not being right, or speed brakes deployed, or stabilizer trim off, or the slats stowed, and a horn blare. Hard to miss that one.
Damn the horns.
It's designed to make this specific error impossible to miss. At 9 a.m, Captain Davis pushes 3 engines to takeoff power. The horn does not sound.
It's confusing.
The 727 accelerates down runway 18 left. The call-outs come normally. Power set. Engine instruments look good. 80 knots. Airspeed is building on both sides. But at the engineer's panel, there's one more sign that something is off. Judd, our flight engineer, notices that there's a light off on his control panel. There's a system that automatically shuts the air conditioning off during takeoff.
I would notice the AC off for sure.
No. All right, Zach, think race cars. Why would the AC turn off?
Because you're not getting enough powers.
Yes. Yes. So our race car listeners, which I know there are a few of them because we drive together, but they know that if you want just a little hair extra boosties, you are not going to drive with the AC on, even when it is 120 degrees out like it was this weekend, because it'll pull power. And the same thing is true for a plane. So the engines pull every ounce of energy into thrust instead of cabin air, and it arms itself when the throttles come up, and there is a green light that is supposed to confirm that all of this has happened. Well, that green light does not come on. So, this dark light isn't a glitch, which I can only imagine the flight engineer probably thinks it is. Like, it's 1988. This is an older aircraft, you gotta... the fuel gauge doesn't work. I mean, this is probably just like, this light burnt out. Give it a little flick flack and hope that it comes on. However, it's the airplane trying to tell the crew in its own quiet way that it is not ready for takeoff. We are not ready.
Happy.
I am not happy. Oh, well, Judd files this away as a curiosity, and he says nothing. The board would later be blunt about this. That dark light should have been verbalized and called out to the captain. It was one more warning, and it went completely unspoken. Instead, what gets called out in the cockpit is VR, which is rotation speed. So Davis pulls back on the control column, and the nose comes up. But the wheels stay on the ground. He keeps pulling, and the nose climbs higher. But the main gear will not leave the runway. Without flaps, the wing needs far more speed than this. The plane races on, nose tilted up, wheels still down. Folks, that if you are trying to picture this, that's an insane thing. to try and visualize going down a runway, just like doing a wheelie.
But your tires are glued to the ground.
Yeah. Your back ones are.
I know.
Front one's way up in the sky. We're about to figure out that angle here in a second because it's crazy. So finally, at about 158 knots, which is roughly 180 miles per hour,
That's fast.
That's crazy. The main wheels lift. Barely. The nose is now 10 degrees above the horizon.
Okay.
And at that angle, the tail is actually striking the runway.
That sounds less than ideal.
It is throwing a shower of sparks, not confetti, sparks. Then the stick shaker fires, which is a device that violently rattles the pilot's control columns to scream that the wing is about to stall, like to stop flying altogether. A heartbeat later, the right wing sags, dips, and its tip scrapes the concrete.
Yeah.
A second trail of sparks before Davis wrenches it level. Then the bangs. 5 of them. With the nose cranked up so high, air is tearing through the engines at what is referred to as a bad angle. And they actually begin to surge. So the compressor stalls, and there is loud percussive backfiring. To the crew, it sounds and it feels catastrophic. Davis later says that it was like the plane hit reverse thrust.
Oh my.
Yeah, you don't throw it in reverse, Terry.
Or in a circle.
Kirkland sees the thrust dropping and reaches an obvious conclusion. Engine failure.
Must be.
It seems to explain everything. The plane is not climbing. It is nearly stalling. It's lurching to one side. And one of them does call that out. Engine failure. We hear it on the voice recorder. But folks, the engines are fine. They were fine the entire time. The only thing wrong with this airplane is the flaps are folded inside the wing.
They're just not flapping.
In the heat of 20 seconds, the crew has locked onto the wrong problem. And once they believe it's the engines, they will never see what's actually wrong. The flight at this point, Zach, even though this seems completely insane and like everything is going wrong, it could still be saved.
Okay.
So all Davis has to do is lower the nose because they are technically they're not on the ground anymore.
They are airborne.
They're airborne.
Okay.
But he's at a insanely steep angle.
Yeah.
So if he just lets the nose lower and he lets the speed build, he could fly this thing out. Instead, he is convinced that he's losing an engine, so he holds the nose up and then he raises it even further.
Well, that just seemed pointless.
He's trying to go up, 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 but it's not his moment. The 727 howls along barely 20 feet above the runway, and the wings are rocking, and all of a sudden, they are out of room. Ahead, at the end of the pavement, stands the antenna array for the runway's landing system. Davis calls full power, but guess what? We've been at full power.
I'm giving her all she's got, Captain.
There's no more gooses to give. 22 seconds after the wheels left the ground, the right wing strikes the antenna array about 1,000 feet past the runway. And the wing ruptures. Fuel ignites. And the 727 rolls hard to the right and slams back to earth, tumbling and breaking apart as it goes. And it slides to rest roughly 3,200 feet beyond the runway. The fuselage cracked into sections, the tail torn open, the right side sheeting into flame. So, Zach, it sounds pretty bad. Sounds pretty bad, right?
It definitely doesn't seem ideal. I don't want to be on the plane.
Every one of the 108 people aboard has survived the initial impact.
Okay. It's a great start.
Damn.
Now there's got to be something dramatic that's still going on.
There is fire. Insane fire. So let's talk about this. It takes hold on the right wing and it races along the fuselage. And thick black smoke fills the cabin in seconds. So passengers scramble for daylight. Some out over the wings, some through a gaping tear where the rear of the plane split open. A survivor named Michelle Christensen reaches for the exit door beside her, and it's already burning. Flames jump in as she gets it open, so she shoves it shut, and the group escapes out the other side.
That's quick thinking, to be honest. You see the flame and feel the heat there, and you're just
nope,
like,
abort. A couple, Bernard and Natalie Glim, drop onto a wing and find the metal cool underfoot until they reach the leading edge, which is so hot that they burn their hands and feet. Oh, God. People jump onto grass that itself is on fire. Everything's on fire.
Is on fire?
Yes. Everything
I guess it probably
where they
got
are.
Covered in fuel,
Yes.
and the fuel was already on
fire.
fire.
It's inferno. You are in hell. Everything is on fire. Up front, Captain Davis is pinned in the crushed, twisted cockpit. His back is badly injured, and he is unable to move. Rescue crews reach the site in under 5 minutes, which is that's fast, but with this burning at the rate that it is,
and the temperature that fuel,
it must feel
not good.
So hot. So hot. So they go in while the wreck is still on fire. It takes them more than half an hour to get him out of this crash and on a backboard. The response is enormous and by every account, really extraordinary. So dozens of ambulances, more than a dozen medical helicopters, because these injuries are severe, a triage operation on the grass where doctors and nurses assess the injured and fan them out across hospitals in Dallas and Fort Worth, so no one facility is swamped.
It's a smart play, which is something that actually doesn't usually happen in chaotic, high stress,
totally
big issues.
I mean, this is crazy. Oh, sorry, my foot. This is like a Grey's Anatomy episode, except it's horrible in real life.
And it was blues instead.
So blood banks put out a call and people wait 4 hours in line to donate. They are wanting to help. Because the cabin held together as well as it did, and because that response was as good as it was, 94 people walk away from a plane that became a fireball.
Ooh.
But 14 do not. 12 passengers and 2 flight attendants die. 13 of them pass from smoke inhalation, and they pass away before rescuers could reach them. The 14th is different. So one passenger actually got out. He escaped the burning airplane, and then he went back in.
He was trying to save somebody.
This is what's crazy. The report does not tell me why he turned around, but it is like my one great mystery of this episode.
No.
It's not reported. It's not documented. Nobody knows why this individual made it out and then ran back into a burning airplane.
I do. He's just like our daughter and forgot his teddy bear.
Oh my God. This is so dark because somebody died and it's
Sorry.
horrible. But yeah, Zach would probably have to run back into the plane to get teddy bear. The NTSB investigators are on the ground fast. So one leader said the smell reaches you before anything else does. The wreckage is strewn across a wide field. one engine was flung more than 100 yards from the main wreckage site.
Oh, after clipping the tower?
Yeah. It just adiosed, muchachoed. And 2 facts jump out very early in this investigation. First, there's a big scrape down the runway.
How'd this happen?
Mm-hmm. There's a small metal shoe on the underside of the 727's tail. So that's like a tail skid.
Mm-hmm.
And that touches down only if the nose is rotated up too far. So investigators find its first strike mark, and from the geometry of the airplane, they read the patch angle straight off the concrete, which is crazy. Think about that. They are able to piece those 2 things together. It's like those terrible math problems where they're like, Jimmy's shadow is 8.5 feet. Yeah. So basically, they're
you didn't like word problems, huh?
No, fucking math. Math is a really neat thing. Name the movie. So they're able to determine from those 2 things that this nose is about 10 degrees up, right there on the runway. That is a plane straining to fly. That should not happen.
Something is clearly wrong here.
Yes. Second, the aluminum smeared along the pavement where the right wingtip was dragging.
What? That's weird.
So this aircraft had a control problem from almost the moment they hit rotation. They work the obvious suspects and they knock them down one by one. Was the plane too heavy to get airborne?
No.
It was actually 18,000 pounds under its maximum.
Heck yeah.
Fuel imbalance that could have dropped a wing. So the refueling records check out. Wake turbulence, those invisible tornadoes of air that trail off a departing jet's wingtips and can flip the plane behind it. The 727 ahead of them was thousands of feet clear. So there is no way that there was any sort of trail that could have caused this.
Yeah, landing-wise.
No. Then, a photograph of the wreckage tells them where to look next. The flaps appear to have been retracted. They go to prove it. The flight data recorder on this older 727 is a primitive foil-based unit. It captures only a handful of basic values, and it has nothing at all about flap position. Duh! Like the one thing that we need concrete data on. It was not recorded. But the flaps leave physical evidence. On the wing, there are jack screws, long threaded shafts that drive the flaps out and pull those suckers back in.
Oh, that's how they're operated, as long bolts, basically?
In this day and age, remember, in the future, It will all be...
Hydraulics.
Yeah. Hydraulics. But in 1988, on this plane, it is jack screws.
It's just so good and simple. Mechanical.
The amount of episodes that I have written about hydraulic fluid failing, it's baffling. So in this situation, they tend to survive a crash frozen in whatever position they were at impact, like a fossil. Measure the jack screw and you will know where the flaps were.
Nowhere. They were hiding.
Oh my gosh, I love this. The jack screws are unambiguous. The flaps and the slats were retracted. Period. We got the facts, folks. This airplane tried to take off with its wings set for cruising at 10,000 feet or higher.
That don't work for takeoff.
Which leaves the question that reframes the entire disaster.
What the hell?
The takeoff warning horn. We literally have a system built in to prevent an accident like this happening. So why was it silent? The crew hears nothing on the cockpit voice recorder. No horn at all when the throttles come up. So investigators pull the warning system apart, and what they find is disturbing. The horn is triggered by a switch on the number 3 throttle. That switch had the wrong actuator part installed.
Oh my.
Are you kidding me? A component about 4/100ths of an inch off the size the manufacturer specifies. You guys, 4/100ths of an inch would have saved this flight. In this case, size matters. An adjustment tab that the maintenance manual says should be bent in no more than 1/4 of a degree had been bent 15 to 20 degrees.
Oh my God.
And the terminals were fouled with blue-green corrosion. Under a microscope, they watch it fail in real time. Sometimes the switch trips, and sometimes the button slides right off the plunger and does nothing at all. The horn didn't work reliably. And here's the part that turns a mechanical fault into something much worse. 20 days before the crash, during a maintenance check, this exact airplane had a discrepancy written up. The takeoff warning horn was weak and intermittent when throttles pushed forward. Someone had already noticed that the horn was dying.
And instead, Delta was just like, horns are annoying anyway.
Well, get this, Zach. The unit was actually swapped. The plane went back into service, but the faulty part was still there. It was still there.
So,
the issue, they swapped a system that was not the faulty part.
Yeah, it sounds like the kind of thing where you buy a new part and you put them both on the bench next to each other, and then you put the old part back in. I've done that.
I don't know. I'm wondering if they swapped out something that was like higher than the actual part. Anyway, the moral of the story is that they didn't fix it. And on the morning of August 31st, this plane needed that to work. So 2 independent failures. But the board didn't stop at the switch and the checklist. The report itself really goes back to that FAA audit. The probable cause names 2 things: the captain and the first officer's inadequate cockpit discipline, which is bad, and it led them to try to take off with the flaps and the slats in the wrong position. And there is the failure of the warning system that didn't catch it. But they also flag Delta's slow rollout of the very fixes it needed after its rapid growth and the Western merger. The procedures, the manuals, the checklists, the training, and the FAA's own failure to force Delta to correct problems that it already knew about. There's a small telling detail buried in the paperwork. Not long before, Delta had loosened its own rule on when to set the flaps.
Oh.
The old procedure was rigid. Flaps out right after the engine starts.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Like, boom, you turn it on, the first thing that you do, flaps out. That's hard to forget. Those 2 things were tied together. But the new rule let crews extend them any time after leaving the ramp. I mean, in a distracted cockpit, that is a massive gap. There is no fixed instant that says now, and no clear word on which pilot owns that task. The system had quietly removed the tripwire that would have caught this mistake. So this was never really a story about 3 men who forgot a lever. It was the story of an airline and a regulator who had each been told in writing that this kind of thing was coming.
And it was.
Captain Davis and First Officer Kirkland both lost their jobs at Delta. The FAA ordered inspections of the entire U.S. 727 fleet, which was almost 1,200 aircraft.
Jeez Louise.
And it found 35 warning system anomalies.
Wow.
A dozen of them the same kind that had gone wrong on our flight, 1141. The fix was to stop taking the signal from a fragile throttle switch, and read it from actual engine power instead.
Sounds better to me.
And to check the system far more often. But the switch was never the real lesson, and everyone knew it. The lasting changes were about people. The sterile cockpit rule actually got some enforcement. Crew resource management training was rewritten so that tasks were assigned to a person explicitly. No more ambiguity about whose job it was to set the flaps or confirm them. And the checklists themselves eventually changed. On modern jets, an item often can't be checked off until the airplane itself confirms the system is set correctly.
Oh, interesting.
So the airplane stopped taking the crew's word for it.
Yeah.
14 people died on this morning because a great airline had let its habits drift and a small switch had been failing for weeks. 94 lived because the cabin held and Dallas-Fort Worth's emergency crews were on their game. For survivors like Tro Prater, the veterinarian who just wanted to go fishing in Montana, the tragedy of this and the horror of it never really leaves you. When someone asks him afterward how so many people got out, he didn't reach for engineering. He just said, God was with them. And that's as Texas as it gets right there, baby.
That is not invalid.
That's Texas for you. And Zach, that is our story for today.
I do appreciate how many people survived this incident. When a plane catches on fire, and also people need to understand 180 miles an hour to smacking a pole and disintegrating.
That is so fast.
It's easy to die in that situation.
I know.
So I'm glad that there were so many survivors on this one.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And also, keep your cockpit sterile.
You guys, follow your checklists.
Yeah.
And keep it sterile. So, folks, if you enjoyed our telling of this story, please go ahead and give this episode a 5-star review. Well, you have to give a 5-star review to the whole podcast. You can't just be like, this one episode was good.
Spotify's review system.
Yeah, darn it. But we would love to hear from you. So shoot us an email, finalboardingcallpodcast@gmail.com. You can also send us a message to our socials. Zach loves getting those. And finally, join us next time when we'll be exploring another transportation disaster story. Until then, remember to stow your tray tables, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for the unexpected, because not every trip reaches its final destination.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.